Welcome to the Productive Attorney Podcast. This is podcast number 2. I'm your host, Jim Zeta. Today, what we're going to talk about is where do you start? How do you begin if you want to become more productive? I don't feel like I want to practice anymore. I'm tired of practice in general. I feel like I'm spinning my wheels, but I don't know what to do. And how do I start and where do I go to begin to see maybe I am in the right place or maybe I'm not? As I typically do, I start out with war stories or hypotheticals and to get into the subject matter. The first hypothetical I have is an issue that came up in a recent case and want you to know as an attorney how you would handle it. And this would kind of help you identify your core values. I was working on a case in federal court. It was a contentious case in that the defendant in this case is somebody that I sue on a regular occasion, and they have developed not just with me but with all plaintiffs in these cases kind of a scorched earth policy. The opposing counsel in the case, though, is a really nice guy. He and I have gotten along really well. We've reached several agreements that have made life easier for both of us that don't prejudice our clients in either way. So it's scorched earth as to how much they'll pay on the case and how much they're going to make you work as an attorney. But as far as a relationship with opposing counsel, it hasn't been. So we get into the case, and there's a motion for summary judgment under the federal rules. The defendant files the motion for summary judgment, and in speaking with him, he talks about how difficult it was for them to get all the grounds in under the 25-page limit under the local rules. So something in the back of my mind kind of triggered with that, but it didn't really come to me as to what was bothering me about that statement. And so I was doing my response. And I looked at some other responses I'd done in federal court, and they were 50 pages. I was trying to realize, is it only a 25-page limit or a 50-page limit? And I went back and looked in the local rules, and the local rules have a page limit for typical motions, which is 25 pages, but there's an local rule specially for summary judgments that's located further down in the rules, and that allows for 50 pages. The local rule also provides that any reply that's going to be done to a typical motion is 10 pages, and the reply to the summary judgment motion is 25. So I recognize that if I told opposing counsel that it was a 50-page limit on his motion and my response, that he would know he had 25 pages on the reply. I didn't want him to have 25 pages on the reply. I wanted him to be limited to 10. My response was within 25 pages. I didn't need more than that, so that's where I kept it. The question was, since we'd been so open throughout the case, do you tell opposing counsel about this or not? Do you have a responsibility, or do you kind of ethically feel like you have to do it? What's your integrity on that issue? Now, I get along really well with the guy. I like him a lot, but I didn't feel like it was necessary in my case to tell him. Some of my students in my class, when they gave this hypothetical, said you might want to do so. Tell them because you've been so open, so maybe they'll tell you. But most of them fell along the same lines that I did. And that's kind of an issue for you. If you're an attorney who said during this hypothetical, I would never tell them and I wouldn't work with them, I'm kind of hard with opposing counsel throughout a case, then that's your core value. That's who you are, and that's how your practice should reflect that. Those attorneys who are in family law and want to be known as a bulldog attorney, then that's the person you want to be, and that hypothetical will help address that issue and let you know that's what you want to be. Others want to be really nice and want to give a bunch of information to opposing counsel, and if that's the case, you might not want to be in a situation where you're adverse all the time, because there are often times when you cannot give information to the opposing counsel, that you have to keep it to yourself and you can't provide it to them to give them an advantage. So determining that may determine even what type of the area law you want to be in. The second hypothetical to try and determine your core values, you are in your 4th year of practice, your business is going well, a former classmate who is very nice and someone you see from time to time at fitness classes and at bar functions, they refer you a contingency fee case. You offer to do a co-counsel agreement. So here in Texas, in order to share fees, you have to do a co-counsel agreement. You can't just refer a case and get money back. So in doing this, I offered the person who referred me a co-counsel agreement, and they said no, they don't need one, and to just send her a bottle of wine when or if it settles. So I worked the case. I settled it pre-suit, so I didn't even have to file the lawsuit 6 months later, and very fortunate to get a large fee in that case. The client obviously is close to the referring attorney, and the day that the settlement happens, the referring attorney sends you a congratulations email. And that had been unsolicited. So obviously the client had told the referring attorney that there'd been a settlement. So the question is, how do you respond? How do you respond to the email from the lawyer that sent you the wine? And to make the hypothetical real, let's say the fee that you're going to get in that case is $100,000. That's your fee as the attorney. So, real money, what would you do if that email came across? So I posed this to my students, and I got a lot of responses. One is to say, thank you very much, and your bottle of wine is on the way. That was one way. Some others said, thank you very much, and do you want to revisit the co-counsel agreement? Because obviously the client is close to the attorney that referred it to you. The client is not going to have to pay any more attorney fees, and if they can get their friends some money, they'd be happy with that. And then there's another way. And the other way is to contact the attorney and say, thank you, we were very fortunate for everything that you did. We offer a 25% co-counsel fee. Here is a co-counsel agreement. And if you sign, we will honor a 25% co-counsel fee, assuming the client is agreeable to do it. Now, for the students who are in school and have debt of $100,000 or $150,000, having to give up $25,000 to someone strikes home. That's money that comes directly out of your pocket, especially if you have your own law firm. So what do you do? How you respond to that hypothetical, again, reflects your core values. And not saying negative on any way that you respond to it. But if you're someone who says, look, I offered that person that, and they didn't accept it, and that's just business, send a bottle of wine, be friendly to them, that's one way to do it. The second way is just offer it to them. So you're being nice, but you're not making it so easy for them that they at least have to respond and ask you for it. There's some lawyers who feel that way. And then the third way to do it is to send them the fee agreement. So all they have to do, without question, is sign it and send it back. For me, the way I practice law, I chose the third option. And they signed and sent it back. I sent it to the client and sent that person $25,000. The reason I did that is because I always treat referring attorneys as well as I can, because that is the lifeblood of my practice. A lot of my cases come from lawyers, and you want the word in town to be that you're somebody who not only pays referral fees, but goes out of their way to pay referral fees. And so that's what I did. Now, the hypothetical can go further as to what if the person hadn't sent you the congratulations email. Would you have, on your own, gone out and sent them something to do? And again, that reflects on your core values and who you are and how you want to run your practice. So the definition of professional identity, the idea of what you want to be as an attorney is talking about engaging students and lawyers at a deeper level by challenging them to internalize their principles and values such that the professional conduct is a natural outgrowth of their internal moral compass. So identifying your core values and the passion is to find the area of law that you will be most relatable, and then applying yourself in that area to reach your personal and professional goals. So that's obviously extremely important. Now, what I tell my law students before I get into the steps of that is, outside of law school, your biggest decision, in my opinion, outside of law school is on marriage, children, and choosing a significant other. Those decisions, which often go without much thought, will have more impact on your life than the first law firm that you choose, or even your choice to go to law school. And so you need to spend a lot of time doing that, and you can use the same steps that I'm talking about here as to how to identify your core values and how to identify what type of lawyer you're going to be to make the decision with marriage and with children. So where do you start? Step number 1, identify your passion. What is your passion? And it changes as you get older. My passion is my family. My wife, Ann, been married 32 years, better get that right. My 2 boys, Michael and Kyle, 24 and 19. They're it. That's my passion. My passion is helping others. And by that, I put food on the table for those that work for me. The 2 lawyers that work for me, the 3 staff that work for me. I sign the paychecks. I make sure that payroll's met. I haven't missed a payroll in over 20 years. That's my job. That's my passion. And being able to help them is hugely important to me. 2 of my staff did not have the credit to get a house, and so the house initially went into my name. One of them has already changed it back to her name. Another one's in the process of doing that for him. I will do what I can to help my staff. My other passion is fitness and soccer. I've played soccer my whole life. I've coached soccer my whole life. I still play, and that's my passion. I play right now on 3 teams, even though I'm 58 years old. I still love to play. And some of my closest friends have been through soccer. And coaching soccer and helping youth has been wonderful, and also teaching at the law school has been great. So, okay, you identify your passions. So for me, you kind of heard them. But once you've done that, then you turn that into core values. What is it that is just inside of you that makes you tick, that makes you get up in the morning? For me, I want to be financially comfortable. I don't want to be super rich. It would be nice to be super rich, but that's not a core value of mine. I want to wake up in the morning and not have to worry about bills. I want to wake up in the morning and be able to afford what I want to afford, but I don't need an airplane. I don't need 5 houses. I don't need the fanciest car. I just want to be financially comfortable. My family is important to me. Fitness is important to me, and my friends are important to me. All F's, not on purpose. I've got a friend, one who I do goals with, and he is different. He is motivated by net worth, and he is open about it. He originally, when I first met him, one of his major life goals was to own a monster house, and he has reached that goal. His house, it's got to be 11,000 square feet. It's beautiful. He has done very well with his net worth. He enjoys his toys. He likes his cars. He's very generous, and he's very fun, and those are his core values. That's what makes him tick, and that's why he gets up in the morning to reach those. He knows that about himself. He's not embarrassed about that. That's who he is, and he'll tell people that's who he is. And then I give the example of my wife, Ann. Her core values involve family, but she's also about service. My wife Ann, short story, she graduated with a master's degree in city and regional planning. She worked at a private consulting firm that worked with local government, helping them put up their comprehensive plans of what a city should be like through zoning. She worked for them and worked for the smaller cities that couldn't afford their own staff. And then when she had our boys, she stayed home. And she was stay at home until Michael started to drive when he was 16. At that time, she had done one other volunteer work. I'd done a bunch, but one in particular was serve on the Fort Worth Zoning Commission. She did that for 6 years, and the last year she was chairwoman. And then when she got off of Fort Worth Zoning Commission, she wasn't sure what she wanted to do, and I told her, keep your powder dry, something will come up. And the day after Michael started driving Kyle to school and her time freed up so she didn't have to do all the driving, our city council person, Joel Burns, resigned to go to school in Harvard, and Ann said that she wanted to be city councilwoman. Given my core values of supporting family, I was going to support her to do that. And she ran against 5 other people, and lo and behold, she won. As city councilwoman, her district included all of downtown Fort Worth, the hospital district, and the near south side. All of that is the economic engine of the city. There are other parts that contribute to that, but that's a huge part of the city. She had almost 100,000 constituents, and she worked very hard and made very little money. She made $24,000 a year. She did that for 4 terms. At the end of her 4th term, which was just this past year, the mayor resigned. The mayor had been there for 10 years. This was the only window that Ann could possibly see herself becoming mayor. She resigned her city council spot. She ran for mayor. She was not successful. There were 10 candidates, so it was a long shot as it was. But she did well, and I was very proud of her for doing that. Right now, she is in line to be an executive director at a nonprofit, again, working with city planning and design. That's her core value, service. She's not all about the money, but hers is about service. Integrity is very important to her. Honesty is extremely important to her. And perception is important to her. She cares about what people think and how they perceive her. And she is open about that as being one of her core values. Not to the extent of how she looks or being an influencer to the traditional YouTube extent we're talking about. She more cares about that she's doing the right thing as an example for the city, example for the people who live in this community, and that people can see that she's doing the right things and hopefully learn by example. So that's your second step. Identify your core values. The third step is set your goals. And these have to be in writing. I do them at during Thanksgiving and during Christmas of each year. I take the goals from the previous year, see which ones I've accomplished, see which ones I've come close to accomplishing, see which ones I didn't even make. I also have a set of long-term goals. For example, one of my long-term goals is to get my boys through school without any debt. I feel like if you can get children through school or kids through school without debt, they seem to have a leg up as they get out into the real world. Another one is to play soccer as long as I can, as long as I'm physically fit to do that. As a result, I do get, I see a physical therapist often who works on me to make sure that my body can continue to stand up to it. I take care of myself, I eat right, and that's what it is. And I anchor my goals to my core values: family, fitness, friends, so trips with friends, trips with family. And I make those with the end in mind. So as I come later in my life and later in my career, I think about, what's going to happen when I'm not practicing law anymore and what my exit strategy is. And you have to think about that as you work through. What I have found is that people, once they get to their later years in practice, they have to decide what they want to do. Some say, I'm just going to continue working. And for those people, I I say that's fine. And if that's your passion, if that's one of your core values, then that's great. But if you're just working because of momentum, I think you need to go to step 2, identify your core values, and even go back to step 1 and identify your passion. If you don't have any passion, sometimes you've forgotten what made you excited and happy when you were younger, and you got to go back and find those. What is it that truly makes me happy? What is it that I really enjoy doing? And then the fourth one, and it's something that is sometimes lost, is when you've set your goals and the day-to-day starts up, because as everybody knows, by the second week in January, most goals are out the window, especially fitness goals. And by the second week in February, people have forgotten they even did them, especially with New Year's resolutions. So the most important thing on step 4 is accomplishing your goals. And what that goes to is grit. That's the most important thing. You just have to grind. It's hard. There's nothing easy about accomplishing your goals. If it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was easy to be fit, everybody would be fit. If it was easy to eat right, everybody would eat right. It's not. If it's easy to be the number 1 lawyer on this type of practice, everybody would be it. But not everybody can be number 1. You have to work. You have to grind every day. And you have to have productivity to do that, which we'll talk about. You have to have passion about it. You have to be really passionate about what you're doing. And try not to lose that spark. It gets hard. You will get tired. There will be down days. There'll be days that you just need rest. That's fine. But keep that passion. And then last, enjoy the law. There is something in the law for everybody. I enjoy getting into an issue in litigation that I haven't really gotten into heavily, and finding all the layers and sub-layers of that issue. Being able to apply those sub-layers in the best interest of your client. And most of the time what I find is if I think I was right on an issue, I just can't figure out why. When I do that digging, when I get into that case law, when I get into the arguments, I find out why. And then I'm able to write effectively so that judges will read it and that I can get the proper decisions, in my opinion, for my clients. Doesn't always work out, but I do know that I enjoy that, and then arguing in front of a judge, and then if all that doesn't work, arguing in front of a jury. Part of your goals should be what's your exit strategy, and another part of your goals is how much do you need to retire. So I've asked this question of students now for 5 years, and I've gotten everything from $50,000 to $100 million as to what you need to retire. Early when I did it, I had a couple CPAs who were in their 40s and 50s, and they could tell me down to about the dollar as to what they needed to retire. So what do you need to retire? Right now, if you want to retire comfortably, anywhere from $2 to $5 million, somewhere in that range, you can retire comfortably. I don't mean you have to have $2 million on hand in cash, but you have investments, you have retirement funds, things that can kick off enough money for that you can live day to day. If you're somebody like my friend who enjoys a high net worth, who enjoys expensive things, you're going to have more money when you retire. If you're like somebody like me who's financially comfortable, doesn't need everything, kind of mid-level. If you're somebody who's very frugal and has gotten tired of the practice of law and wants to be done, you can get away with less money. You can do retirement on the cheap and still have everything that you need. So those are the ways as an attorney that you can identify your core values. And what we're going to do next podcast is talk about taking those core values, taking what we've just learned here, and putting them into a business plan. Whether you are an attorney who's a solo, whether you are an attorney in a small to a big firm, you have your own little world. In a big firm, you have your own little pod or your own little self that you deal with. Not little self, but yourself that you deal with. And when you're dealing with that, you go ahead and develop a business plan for yourself within the firm. And so that's what we'll talk about in the next podcast, is how to do a business plan, what to have in it, how to make it work. This has been the second podcast for The Productive Attorney. I'm Jim Zeta. Thanks for listening.